Hello, and welcome to the AppleInsider Podcast. I am your host, Wes Hilliard. I am joined once again by William Gallagher, and we have two sponsors this week, Fast Growing Trees and Rogue Amoeba. If you are a paid subscriber, you won't be hearing about any sponsors because you're going to be able to hear about Apple Insider Plus, where we're going to be talking about our WWDC wish list. So, of course, Apple announced WWDC, when it's going to be happening. William, did you already buy your tickets to fly out to Cupertino?
I'm angling for an invitation to the UK. I imagine there's going to be a party at Apple Battersea or something, and I am fully available. I'm getting my hair cut and everything, although so far no response. But this year, I don't know why this year, I am actually really more excited than usual about WWDC, and it feels so far away. Bring it sooner. I want it now.
I mean, June is basically tomorrow as we speak, so we're almost there. I mean, April Fool's Day is coming up. Be aware, everyone. Be aware. Yeah. Right, it's the worst holiday. I don't know. I think you could just show up to Battersea. I mean, what are they going to do? Kick you out? I'm yes. Sure they'll have probably one video screen in there with a bunch of nerds standing around it cheering, and then everyone else will be trying to buy an iPhone, wondering what they're doing in the corner. No, I'm curious if there will be the usual parties and stuff. I'm surprised. So just getting to WWDC, there's usually sister conferences around it. I forget what they're called off the top of my head. AltConf, maybe?
Yes, I think. Something like that's going to bug me all day. Yes, really famous name, an alternative conference. It must be Alt. No. Yeah, that one, which we affectionately call Fred. Yeah.
Fred.
Fred.
I'm surprised that, there haven't been more. William, you have an opportunity. You should get with some of your buddies and start a sister conf in Britain for WWDC. Right. There you go.
Okay. I did once arrange a meetup with somewhere where it was going to be live simulcast between multiple pubs, loads of us in each pub around the UK. 2 people turned up. Me and the organizer of one of the other pubs, and we spent the entire evening on the phone to each other, drinking away. Actually, it was a very good evening, but I feel as a party event organizer, I'm quite poor.
Well, we'll get to WWDC in just a second, but this brings to mind that there were some interesting watch parties going on these past couple of weeks. Severance had a watch party at both restaurants that appear in the show. And everyone showed up dressed to work on the severed floor, and it looked like a pretty big party there.
I missed that one completely. Severance is everywhere, and it's great, isn't it? It's so clever, I think, all the things that are being done for it. It's kind of warmly witty rather than shoving it down your throat at every opportunity. But I didn't know about the restaurants.
You can go to apple.com and look at, not buy, a Severance Terminal Pro, or a Lumen Terminal Pro, I'm sorry. So that's fun. Cool, I guess. This is one of those just silly things.
You're right there that it looks like you can buy it and you can't. It is just a promo. But there is actually a firm that sells the keycaps, or very, very nearly the keycaps for the keyboards on those terminals. I believe the Severance designers actually went to some trouble to not use anything identifiable, like made them all themselves. But they're based on a Data General terminal, and this company makes sets for those. So now they've released a set for Severance fans.
I mean, that's cute. It's kind of like wearing a yellow shirt and saying you're a fan of Pikachu. It's not quite the same, but I guess fans will take it. I made the joke in our Slack that it's like when Marge bought Bart the wrong video game. Anyway, that's a classic Simpsons episode. But anyway... back to WWDC. Oh, also season 3, renewed. It's Apple's most popular show on the planet right now. So, Worldwide Developer Conference. We talked about it last week. We got some nasty grams about it, but this is a worldwide conference. People will be visiting from around the world. I wonder how that's going to go. I'm not going to say any more now, but I do want to say, interesting. Apple kind of just threw it out there. It's going to be in person, but the usual pre-recorded video, I'm sure. where everyone goes to Cupertino, sits in the lawn, and watches a giant projection of the video we're all at home in our pajamas watching on YouTube. So,
all right, I think you've revealed quite a bit there about your clothing and also time of day. Oh, no, because it is morning for you, isn't it? For me, these things are always at 6 p.m. or 5 p.m. UK time.
It's about 1 p.m. here.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So, no, in fact, actually, pajamas, PJs are bad in that case, aren't you? Yes.
Soft pants at home, hard pants out of home. So it depends.
Right.
Hard pants or jeans, everyone. So yeah, this will be we have an additional operating system. We're going to be talking about Vision OS. This year is actually the real update. Vision OS 2 is more of a kind of a 1.3, but they called it 2.0 because it was out only like 5 months ish after the release of the original operating system. So I'm interested to see what they've learned over the past year.
Crazy to think that we've had Apple Vision Pro since was it January or February of last year? Still feels like the new thing to me.
It's the most recently new thing, and it will be the most recently new thing probably for the next 5 years before Apple does anything else. I mean, we might get some Home Hub stuff. Definitely not at WWDC, it seems. I think this is gonna be a software focused event. Maybe there's some rumblings, of course, every year there is, of a Mac Pro update. Will it be some sort of M4 Ultra Supreme Max, or will it be a M3 Ultra boring update? We'll find out.
Yeah.
Outside of that,
I always feel like I'm the one who keeps saying WWDC is a software developers thing. I know Apple has released major hardware there before, but it feels like there has to be a reason for it. Like all of the Apple Silicon stuff, the first test machine, that was announced at WWDC because it had to be, along with the big move to the new system that would need new software. This year, is there an inherent need to launch the Mac Pro at WWDC, and is it the audience for it? I don't think so. But
I don't think there's much of a need to launch a Mac Pro again. I think I think we can bury that thing and let the Mac Studio breathe. But we'll see if Apple. The only reason why that machine needs to exist is if they can figure out external graphics cards. Right. But iOS 19, iPadOS 19, watchOS 12.
Yeah, you stumbled there, didn't you? I get so lost in the numbers for these. Why don't they just level them up? Because you remember a long, long time ago, Microsoft suddenly went from, I think, it was something like Word 3 to Word 6, just so that everything on every platform was the same number. And I presume because it would save them typing mistakes and things. Apple could do the same.
Vision OS 3, and maybe debuting HomeOS 1.0, because of course now we have to have another one that's offbeat with everything else, including Vision OS.
That's true.
I don't know. We'll see. HomeOS would be interesting. You could probably hear us talk about that more on the HomeKit Insider podcast. But yes, it's got to be coming, right? If we're getting all this whole platform, they're going to announce it at WWDC.
Do you not think then, if they do announce HomeOS, that they will contextualize it, that they will show us a proto home hub with it running to get us excited for it?
No, maybe. See, there's rumors of a new HomePod and HomePod Mini coming, and it could easily just be kind of mentioned that HomePods will run HomeOS, and then a week later they announce the new HomePods with the top screen, and they're like, this is why we had to have a HomeOS. Nothing else, hint, hint. I don't know. This is a very odd WWDC. I think that's why it's exciting, because there's a lot of questions, and there's also that threat of a redesign. I say threat because if there is any kind of redesign, it will take over developers' lives for the next year. So we'll see what happens.
Good point. I'm trying to think when this happened before with iOS 7. There was definitely, because certain design things are inherited by apps. Standard buttons are provided to apps, so developers don't have to change anything there. But the rest of their thing does. And I'm thinking of apps I particularly liked that actually I thought were really quite quick to adopt. In fact, OmniFocus was incredibly fast at adopting the new format back then.
It was a significant disruption just introducing the alternate light and dark mode icons or tinted icons. Developers had to spend a significant amount of time if they wanted to adapt every single one of those, and a lot of them didn't. I have at least 5 apps on my phone that have completely ignored that there are new icon types, and I still have a bright white narwhal icon for my robot vacuum, my lights for my office that control that is still just its own thing. I forget its name because I will never remember it. And yeah, just several apps like that. PlayStation just completely doesn't care. Briefly, when Apple was forcing the icons to shift, the PlayStation icons looked great inverted. I don't know why they didn't do that. But anyway, hopefully everyone starts adapting those in the next 5 years or so. Even Google did start doing their icons properly. So maybe there's still hope. But as far as a redesign goes, we've seen hints and we've seen backlash. So have you kept up with this?
I hear the word glass mentioned a lot, and then other people saying no. Yeah, I'm interested in this, but just as you were saying that about the icon changes, I realised I don't think I even looked once at changing any of the icons for mine. So maybe I'm not as into the look of this as I think. But it does feel weird that they would make that change in that iOS and then completely radically change a glass model in the next. It feels like Apple usually builds towards things rather than changing dramatically, usually anyway.
This redesign was supposed to be out last year, as at least according to different leakers. It's just Apple readjusted to prioritize Apple Intelligence. So, fine. But looking at these designs, it's not going to change much about like the home screen, because last year's design changes were about the home screen, and if you see a circle icon anywhere, it's a lie. It's not going to happen. Apple's not going to change their home screen from squircles to circles. It's not going to happen.
Okay, I like the word squircles. I mean, I realise you mean rounded corner squares things, but I've never heard them called squircles before. I like that word.
Yes, that's Apple's patented term. Not really, but it is a term that people use to describe it. But yes, the rounded square, rounded rects that Apple uses are not going anywhere in iOS, so don't worry about that. But the rest of the system, glass is a funny thing. So people think of glass like Aqua. They think of glass like that Windows version, was it Vista, with all those like reflective bits.
Oh, yeah.
This is not quite that, and if John Prosser is correct here, and I think he's half right, which Mark Gurman points out, Prosser must have a really, really early build, like an October of last year build is my estimate, based on looking at this and when he started posting about it. Usually leakers get things 3 or 4 months late. He started posting in January, so walk it back somewhere around October. So that's pre-finalized. Apple finalizes their OS updates in December. So this is a pre-finalized version that may not have even been a working version. He might just have sketches. We don't know what he has, but he's seen something, or he might have even just been described through the phone what they look like. And, you know, this is how this leaking stuff goes. But he obviously has a source who has seen, or at least has provided some sort of visual information. And this is where the glass comes in. So in Apple Vision Pro, when you look at an object, be it an icon or the edge of a floating window, this kind of chrome appears. It's like a light catching a reflection of a surface. Imagine you're holding like a trading card, like a Pokemon card, and it's just cardboard. It doesn't really reflect light, really. You're just kind of holding it. Now put it in a laminate sheet, and then twist it in your hand. Okay, that laminate sheet catches the light. It's not the card's catching light, it's that the sheet is. So imagine coating all of your UI in these kinds of sheets of glass where light is reflecting off of the edges of this glass, and that's kind of what you're getting. So in Prosser's example, he actually made a full video showing messages and various apps with different UI elements, but it's all basically the same design element. That's why this seems like such a minor update from his point of view, because he only got to see really a window Chrome, a keyboard, and a couple of buttons spread across a couple of apps. And Gurman is saying that's too early. The redesign is actually more extensive than that, so we'll see what Apple does. But for now, what we can tell is maybe like the edit button or the back button in an app, instead of it just being out in space that you tap, it has a circle around it, right? But that ring is basically like a piece of glass covering the original edit button. And I'm assuming what's going to happen is as you tilt your phone, the light reflection is probably going to move very subtly across these surfaces. At least that's what it looks like, because these are all stills. He has no live images or anything of this UI. So the keyboard also ditches its edges, its hard cut edges that go to the edge of the screen. Instead, it's going to have its own window chrome around the keyboard that has this shiny reflective surface, very similar to how the edges of Windows and Vision Pro work.
Yeah, sorry, I'm absorbing that. I'm very much a fan of design as a purpose, not design just as a skin of something. So I'm trying to picture, does this help you find the right button? Does it make it clear what's what? I'm not sure.
So the way Prosser has it shown, it definitely highlights buttons better than just them having them blend into the UI Chrome. There's a lot of oddities here that are clear. None of these are screenshots. If you look at his video, those are mock-ups created by an artist who saw or was described what it looks like, because he tries to protect his sources through mock-ups. He never shows the real leak. So we don't know what Apple's looks like, and mock-ups always look worse than what Apple has. So keep that in mind when you look at this. But there's a lot of odd decisions in the mock-up here that I won't get into. You can go read the article I wrote. But overall, there are elements here that are definitely not from Vision Pro. If you open the Messages app that he shows, so he shows the Messages app first in a podcast he recorded, and it's showing this shiny chrome over these buttons. Well, not quite what Vision Pro looks like. So this is what's kind of funny to me. If Apple's doing this to be more unified across the ecosystem, that means they would have to change Vision Pro as well. Because the way the buttons look in Vision Pro, these standard buttons are just gray and they highlight when you look at them. They're flat. They're 2D objects. Now, the keyboard in Vision Pro does look similar to what's shown in Prosser's thing. So it's kind of a blend of the two. I don't think he's got the buttons right. He's obviously seen something that shows this somewhere, but I don't know. We'll just have to see what Apple does. I'm not worried about whether or not Prosser gets this right. I'm worried for his reputation, though, because if he gets any of this wrong, it's I don't know how he recovers from this, because he's gotten so many things wrong, large things wrong in recent history.
Well, I've just stopped watching his stuff anyway, mostly for how it's delivered, really. So I'm unconcerned about that. Except, I'll tell you what, let's go out on a limb here, because you've put an idea in my head. Yes, there are rumours about iOS 19, but of course there are also rumours about the iPhone 17. And one of the rumours about the iPhone 17, actually a consistent one, is that the iPhone would be a mixture of metal and glass. Is there any chance that actually that's a big misunderstanding and the phone will be metal, but iOS will look like glass?
No, I think the designs we've seen is pretty much solidified. What
you could have given me a minute there. I mean, if I were right, you hear it here first, and now you hear it here last, really. So.
I do think some of the UI Chrome we're seeing here reflects some of what's happening on iPhone, kind of like the UI for the camera app when you bring up the style picker, that looks like a camera bar, right?
Oh, right.
So, and if you attach a MagSafe battery pack already, it brings up a charging thing that looks like the MagSafe battery pack on the back of the phone. Now, imagine that with more of a glassy surface, right? So, I think Apple might be working to try and make the phone feel more transparent in some ways, which is interesting to think about. So Prosser also showed a home screen where all of the app icons were covered in this glassy surface that I described, where the edges have a reflective sheen around them. The biggest difference between Prosser's renders and Apple Vision Pro is Apple Vision Pro has the reflective sheen and usually drop shadows around elements. And I'm not seeing drop shadows in Prosser's UI. So I don't know what's happening here.
Do you think that this is change for change's sake, whereas the iOS 7 one, that made sense? I mean, prior to iOS 7, it was skeuomorphic, and the idea was we would understand iPhones because they looked like everyday objects. The calendar looked like it had paper and all this stuff. And then after a few years, we got it. So now we can move on and get away with that. What's the impetus for the change now? Is it actually what you just said then about just being the same across all platforms? That's not a bad idea.
It's a mixture of bringing things closer. So, and all we're seeing is iOS, but theoretically, this is coming to iPadOS, macOS, even tvOS is going to get some kind of design, which is funny because tvOS is what inspired visionOS. So it's a big circle here. We'll get into it more in the Apple Insider Plus portion, where we're going to describe a little bit of what we kind of our wish lists and what we're hoping for. I don't know. Like, I remember there was a year or two ago, everyone thought Apple was going to go for something called new morphism. So that's just the next step from skeuomorphism to where we are today. New morphism is basically everything's kind of just blended from the same backdrop. Like, there's no distinct elements. It's all soft, right? Rubbery texture. I don't think that's this. This is, since glass is very harsh and very sharp, that's kind of the opposite of new morphism. So those rumors are just outright wrong. But I think looking at how Apple is designing iPads and iPhones, Vision Pro, they're these large sheets of glass and metal. And maybe they're looking at their UI and thinking, maybe we should make our UI look more like glass and metal. And not in a skeuomorphic way, right? Leaning towards the utilitarian form factor, but just hiding elements of making it feel more like a cohesive whole. Like looking at the back of the phone and then flipping it over and looking at the UI, you should see echoes of each other across the software and the hardware. And I think that's what Apple's going for. And that's interesting. Maybe it's going to give it more 3D effect. I don't think Apple's going to make a 3D display, but Vision Pro is all about dimensional interfaces. And by adding shape and sharpness to the UI, you could be adding depth to it as well. So I'm curious how this is going to populate across all of the platforms.
This episode is brought to you by Fast Growing Trees. Did you know Fast Growing Trees is the biggest online nursery in the US with thousands of different plants and over 2 million happy customers? They have all the plants your yard needs, like fruit trees, privacy trees, flowering trees, shrubs, and so much more. Whatever plants you're interested in, Fast Growing Trees has you covered. Find the perfect fit for your climate and space. And they're not kidding about that either. For you in the States, they have everything you could possibly want. Like fruit trees, palm trees, evergreens, houseplants, and so much more. I'm not convinced that actually everything they've got would thrive here in our English climate, but I am getting obsessive about studying the Fast Growing Trees website for ideas. For instance, our two quite peculiarly shaped, ancient and frankly even rotting old wooden sheds, they are now gone from our garden. They have been replaced by a really nice new shed and actually a really even nicer little summer house, which we are now finally in the weather just getting to enjoy. But as we sit there looking out, it's really clear suddenly that all of this work has left us with these different sections of the garden with just extra empty space. So I'm reading through the thousands of different kinds of plants, and I am envying each and one of those 2 million happy US customers individually. I mean, okay, it's not like you can't buy a plant in England, but Fast Growing Trees isn't some supermarket outlet with plants piled high, nor is it like a specialist boutique where you have to know everything about plants yourself. Instead, it has this massive selection, but it's run by gardeners who care. So, for instance, when you buy a plant, I love this name, you get the Alive and Thrive guarantee, and you also get free plant consultation. So while I look through the website selection and while I read its advice, you should go order plants. They'll be shipped directly to your door in just a few days. This spring too, they have the best deals for your yard with up to half off on select plants and other deals. And listeners to our show get 15% off their first purchase when using the code AppleInsider at checkout. That's an additional 15% off at fastgrowingtrees.com using the code AppleInsider at checkout. So fastgrowingtrees.com, code AppleInsider. Now's the perfect time to plant. Use Apple Insider to save today. Offer is valid for a limited time. Terms and conditions may apply. And thanks to Fast Growing Trees for supporting the Apple Insider Podcast. Not to dwell too much on this, but you're saying that pops into my head. You're now more than a year into using Vision OS. Do you think it works? Is it right, do you feel?
It's fine. I don't think Vision OS needs any kind of what you'd call a redesign. It definitely needs more customization. I'm interested in more widget type things, more APIs, just informational stuff. I want to be able to walk around my home and plop things down. I want to go back to pre-Vision OS, pre-Apple Vision Pro before we could use it, how I described it. I still think that is an ultimate goal. I know I was reaching a little bit because no one knew how this thing really worked, but I still think the idea of a developer, like the developer of Overcast, building a radio, a 3D radio that you could place on your desk, and then you look at it and tap your fingers or even reach out with your finger and quote unquote physically press the play button on that radio to start playing your podcast, and the tape deck has the art of your podcast you're listening to, right? Kind of blending reality with this digital ecosystem. I think that's where it could go. We're already seeing examples of it. Apps are bringing objects in all the time. Apple has this whole ability to build objects into apps. That is a thing Vision OS can do. It's just not being widely explored, and I think Apple could open the door to that more. And Vision OS 3, I think, might have some UI interaction adjustments, but overall, I think it's going to be about the software. And this is getting into, again, Apple Insider Plus, but one of the things I think is going to happen is we're going to see almost, if not all of them, many of the apps become native, and we're going to see a lot more different and unique interfaces from Apple and Vision OS 3. So that's going to be the focus of it, not some radical redesign. Maybe it'll need to shift closer to iOS so that they're in parity, but overall it's going to, like, where it is interaction-wise is fine. It's the execution that needs work.
Also the price, to be fair, but yes, okay, so your point.
I mean, the product isn't going to change price mid-cycle. Apple doesn't do that. But we will probably see the next generation either as a preview this year or early next year. I'm still thinking a 2026, if not early 2027 release makes sense for Gen 2. So, speaking of things you wear on your head, AirPods Max, which I am also wearing right now.
Sorry, I'm just amused at the segue there. That was local radio DJ level segue. Very well done. Yes, from on the head to on the head. But yes, speaking of AirPods Pro Max, which you've been very rude about in the past.
Yeah, it's still a terrible buy, but now if you buy them, at least you can use them as headphones. Apple has introduced an update that is coming, I guess, in the .4 updates. You can now use a cable to plug in directly USB-C to C for lossless audio on your iPhone or iPad.
Oh, I see.
You can use a C to a $40 cable that is audio jack to C to get audio. So I would need that $40 cable in addition to the $550 headphones to record this podcast if I was to buy a new generation headset. That way, so now the audio jack thing works, where it did not work before because you need Apple's bespoke cable for it. So that's happening. And lossless over cable. Great. You can do that now. I'm still probably not going to buy them.
Yeah, the thing is, I actually saw that cable in the online Apple store when I was searching for something, and I thought, how quaint, a 3.5mm jack plug on a cable. Haven't seen one of those in years. But I didn't connect that it was to do with this story of AirPods Max. I have heard people saying, I can't remember the phrasing, but it was Apple announced lossless audio on the AirPod Max, and some people were going, yeah, no, not really. And I'm not honestly sure why they doubt. Would Apple lie to us about a feature we could then check out?
Well, I think audiophiles are mostly just liars, so it's just like it's a lying game, I guess they're playing. No, it's lossless by definition, but because it's going through digital to analog conversion, people are questioning whether or not it's true lossless. And
right. I see.
I believe the way it's working is it's basically digital to analog from iPhone to cable, and then analog to digital from cable to headphone. Which is how it worked on the Lightning version of the AirPods, and I think that's happening again here. So you're still, because of those conversions, people are saying, well, you're going to obviously lose something over each conversion. Nah, I don't care. I can't imagine. Someone made the comment on a different podcast. I'm going to say Upgrade, who I honestly could not tell you. I listen to so many shows, but so people who listen to music, buy music to listen on their equipment. Audiophiles buy equipment to listen to their music. So okay. something along those lines. And look, if you say you can hear the mercury in a thermometer moving, great. I'm glad for you. But that doesn't change the fact that I still enjoy my music. I could get a tape deck with some Sony Sponge Pod ear things and enjoy AC/DC just as much as I can losslessly over AirPods Max. It's going to be fine.
A friend of mine is an audiophile. I'm from so many years ago now. He'd bought some new equipment, and he was telling me in detail how his particular favourite album of his, suddenly on this gear, he could actually hear new instruments deep down in the mix. And I had to ask him, do you like the new instruments for it? They've ruined the song for you. But... Well,
so I go hard on audiophiles. I actually don't care. I'm mostly just joking. You do you. If this is how you enjoy music, go for it. But at the end of the day, it's whatever works best. And I think for most people, the lossless version of Apple Music, if you are connecting an audio DAC or something like that, you're going to get, that's the most you're going to hear that audio, right? You're basically getting pure CD quality, which is what scientists have said is basically the most humans can hear. We've surpassed our ability to hear things a long time ago. And so, yes, you can throw thousands of dollars at stereo equipment. You're mostly just wasting money at that point. Like I said, I listened to the Metallica concert on Apple Vision Pro with AirPods Pro 2 with their H2 to H2 lossless connection. Great. I felt like I was at the concert. I could not honestly think of it being any better than that, other than if AirPods Max had an H2 chip in it, Apple, I could do that H2 to H2 lossless with the larger headphones that encase my ears with more bass and more volume. That could enhance my experience, but will it sound better? It really, I mean, this is where it gets into a lot of subjective stuff. So I'll just say, cool. Apple should be unifying their ecosystem. The fact that AirPods Max with USB-C released without these features is maddening. Why bother? Because you released a worse headphone that couldn't even connect over an audio jack. Like you regressed in features and just swapped it out for USB-C and released it before it was able to do that. So just very odd concept of a device. As soon as they release the Gen 2 product with H2 or H3, yeah, I'll buy it. It's just not there yet.
Okay, sorry, my mind's split on things that aren't there yet and things that are. We just talked about the cable that is out, and like it or not, it does make a difference to some people. But really, are we that interested in what Apple has actually brought out, or are we more interested in the future? And yet more, I presume, iPhone 17 rumours this week. That's really what we live for, isn't it? Not actual products, just rumours.
Well, there's rumors, of course. What is it? Instant Focus Digital is telling us that Apple is probably bringing ProMotion to everything. Oh no, sorry, this is an Instant Focus Digital. He did a different rumor this week. This is Bloomberg, actually, saying that ProMotion could be coming to the base iPhone 17. Now, ProMotion is not necessarily 120 hertz. ProMotion is the technology that allows Apple to have variable refresh rate in a device. That usually means higher than 60 hertz. So what does that mean? I'm assuming this means that we're going to get 90 hertz on the standard iPhone, not 120. What do you think?
Oh, that makes sense. I hadn't thought of it in those terms, because numbers like that don't really mean a lot to me. I know 120 is more than 90. I mean, look at the quality of understanding here. But I'm one of these people that can't tell the difference between ProMotion and not. However, I really like it because of this fact that as well as the faster, it can go slower, and because it can go down to almost nothing, that's how we get lovely things like always-on display, and I adore always-on. So
I think this means the standard phones will get always-on. They'll get always-on standby. Standby is a good feature that not enough people have access to because they don't have ProMotion. So that is, I think, where this is coming in. But I'm not sure the high end of this is going to be 120. That is a pro feature, and I think Apple, and I know, yes, Android has like 5,000 hertz displays. I don't care. From Apple's point of view, that 120 hertz is a pro feature. It's on iPad Pro. It's on iPhone Pro. So they will seek to differentiate by saying it's not 60, it's getting higher, people get more, but 90 is what you get. And honestly, that's enough for most people. 90 would probably be enough for me, but I buy the Pro phone, so I'll get 120 anyway.
If I buy this year, I'm sure it'll be a Pro one again. But will I buy? I mean, the iPhone 16 Pro Max was quite expensive, and it's a very, very nice phone. Isn't that surely is enough for me for more than a couple of years?
Oh yeah, I mean, whoever upgrades every 2 years always gets a lot of fun upgrades. The people who complain that it's a boring upgrade cycle, it's not for you. Yeah, like we who buy phones every year are the nerds who like to get into the nitty-gritty, tiny feature details. And maybe we're upset that those tiny details aren't changing enough. But for the people who wait 2-3 years, they're getting significant changes. And I'll still argue that most years iPhones get pretty good upgrades, the cameras especially. And this year it looks like this iPhone Slim is going to be incredible. Now, when was the last time you held a iPod Touch?
Oh, goodness. 10 or more years ago. For it.
Yeah, go find one and go touch it, because it is still pretty much one of the smallest devices Apple has ever made, thinnest devices. Now, 6 millimeters is how thin that was, and we're talking about iPhone 17 Slim being 5.5 millimeters. Now that is going to be interesting.
Does it not seem like this is not a prototype, but a first step towards all iPhones being that thin?
This is the iPhone 10 of this generation. I think this is an experiment to see what they can do. They're going to test the fragility of it in the wild. They're going to see how people use it, if they like it, if they're going to slap an 8-inch case on the back of it anyway.
Yes.
Get one of those OtterBox Defenders you can play basketball with.
Yes.
I remember, so when the iPhone got slimmer and you remember taller, not wider, those kinds of upgrades, people were talking about, I wonder how long it'll take before we get to iPod Touch. Because at the time, iPhone 5, iPhone 6, iPhone 6 got a bit thinner, got that kind of candy bar design that lasted for several years. Those rounded edges, it felt great, but then you held it next to the iPod Touch that was still for sale at the time, and man, that iPod Touch still killed it in thinness. It was just so much thinner, and people kept saying, I wonder how long it'll take, and I guess it took almost a decade, because here we are getting right up to iPod Touch range. So I don't know. I'm interested in seeing what happens here. Majin Buu provided a photo of some dummy units next to each other, just to show the thinness again, and it looks incredible. I mean, I have the iPad Pro with M4 that is super thin. The thinness is escaping me at the moment, but it is very skinny as a tablet. So I'm curious what it's going to be like to have such a skinny iPhone, which I will not be buying. I'm going to get the Pro Max. So
that was going to be my next question. Would you buy it? Would you buy two phones? I think, but no. So you're going to be down the Apple Store having a look at it, but walking away with a Pro Max or an Ultra, whatever it turns out to be called.
I don't think it's going to be called Ultra. That nonsense. It's just no. I agree. It's probably a better name. It's cleaner, but it's just not an Apple. Like, that's not what they're doing.
Well, I would say I wouldn't expect Apple to change a familiar brand name. That Ultra could be a new higher end phone, but Pro Max is a familiar thing. Why would you change it? But of course they changed SE to 16E, so what do I know?
So looking at the spec sheet, iPad Pro 13-inch is 5.1 millimeters thin. That is incredible. So the iPhone Slim will be a little bit thicker than that. It makes sense why the iPad Pro can be so thin. It has more space to stretch. But so something that you can hold in your hand, though, that is that thin and that light, that's going to be interesting. I mean, it really did change how the iPad could be used, becoming that skinny and that lightweight. So we'll see.
This episode is brought to you by Rogue Amoeba. If you've been using Macs for long enough, you know them, and there's at least a good chance you've used their audio apps. But if I'm wrong, if you have gone through life without ever hearing of Rogue Amoeba, you are in for such a treat. And, well, you can tell I'm a fan, can't you? I can't actually remember now, and I have tried. How long ago is it that I bought Rogue Amoeba's Audio Hijack? But I'm not even going to try figuring out how many podcasts and videos I've used it for, how many thousands of hours of audio that app has recorded for me flawlessly. I do know, though, that those thousands of hours of audio, they're not just me yapping away. They are, well, there's quite a bit of that, but there's also excerpts from shows. There are interviews with people I've done. There are even bleeps. If you ever hear an email bleep on the show and it's positioned just right for comedic effect, well, the sound of the bleep was recorded with Audio Hijack. Because if you can hear it or if you can play it on your Mac, Audio Hijack can record it. And Rogue Amoeba's other apps, they will let you edit audio. They let you route audio around, and that one needs to be explained. Right now, for instance, I've just been rearranging my office, and I finally put some external speakers in place. And with Rogue Amoeba's sound source, I could have music go to those speakers, fine. But those annoying email bleeps, well, they could just play on my Mac Studio's internal speaker. Just go use all of this. Go use every Rogue Amoeba app, because you can. Free, fully featured trials of all of Rogue Amoeba's apps are available before purchase. And when you do buy, because you will buy, there is no subscription pricing. It's just a one-time charge. Plus, through the end of May, you can save 20% off any purchase by using coupon code INSIDER. Visit macaudio.com/insider to learn more about Rogue Amoeba's apps and take advantage of this offer. macaudio.com/insider, and then later the coupon code INSIDER. And thanks to Rogue Amoeba for all their work they've done for me on my Mac and for supporting the Apple Insider podcast.
And other things in Apple's future and present and past, Apple Intelligent.
I've heard of it. Yeah.
Are you going to, well, I guess you'd have to become like a United States citizen, I suppose. We would, we're in the middle of a potential class action lawsuit.
Oh, yes, over false advertising for it. And that doesn't seem unreasonable. I keep coming back to, I presume it's about the ad where a woman asks Siri to tell it who was the guy by the place where we met that time, and it works. That was a stunningly effective ad. That was the first time I actually thought with AI, yes. And now it's been pulled, and I imagine you're going to tell me they're suing over something else. They don't like the colour of the emoji.
Well, it's very clearly calling out this ad. Fine. I don't know how any respectable judge would actually pick this up, though, because multiple things here. So Apple did have an advertising campaign starting in September through to when 18.1 came out, showing a lot of features that were not available. But every ad had the disclaimer pop up multiple times and on the website when you go buy the phone that Apple Intelligence was coming fall 2024. And specifically, that said some features and languages will be coming over the next year. Now, this ad played in September of 2024. We are not yet to September 2025. So, by the language of the ad, Apple has not lied, right? They haven't violated anything. And the judge could argue that the consumer made a purchase based on a promise and not on that's on them, right? That's not on Apple. Apple companies promise things all the time. Now, if they said it does this today, they could, it would be a different grounds, but perhaps even in September, they could probably try to visit this lawsuit and say, well, it's been a year and it still doesn't do this. But I don't know. If you go to Apple's terms of use, I guarantee you it says not everything is guaranteed and they would just be moot anyway because you sign the contract just by using the phone. I find these lawsuits so funny because we sue for everything in America. But is this the only ad that wasn't accurate in its depiction of Apple Intelligence, William?
I only remember that one was so striking because it was such a good idea. The other one that I remember from the same set was of some sort of lazy guy spinning on his chair, apparently concocting a very impressive email using writing tools. And I'm never going to use writing tools, so that kind of flew by me, really.
Right.
The other one landed. I don't think... I have a feeling normally these things come in threes, and I can't think what the other one might be. But
Bella Ramsey had 3 she was in, and then there was a few other ads. So Bella Ramsey had the contextual Apple Intelligence, which is the feature that does not exist yet. Had, I believe, Memory Movie. And
yes.
And maybe... Oh, writing tools. Not writing tools. Summary. It summarized it summarized a screenplay or something because they were like, "Hey, did you get to read that yet?" "Oh yeah, of course I did. I love the thing about the person," and it's just reading off of a summary, right? So and then the lazy people ads, which were awful. Writing tools was one, Memory Movie, and there was another one. But yeah, all of those features came. So the only ad that Apple aired that had anything to do with something that did not arrive was the contextual Siri and Apple Intelligence. So
right. So the only good one, really.
Okay. And I think this is where it gets curious of just like, how will they make the argument? Will they be able to prove in court that this made people buy phones? There's a lot of arguments amongst analysts that say so Apple has data that shows that iPhones that could have Apple Intelligence, so United States, UK, sold better than places that it did not have Apple Intelligence, the EU and China. And that when Apple Intelligence is introduced, it increases sales. So that apparently having these features does materially increase sales. But will they be able to prove that this one feature is the reason why sales increased, or is it the suite of features? And I don't think that's provable. And I think the disclaimers will just undo this entire lawsuit. And even if they did somehow make this class action, everyone would get 35 cents and lawyers would be billionaires, and that would be the end of it.
Well, that is the point, isn't it? Lawsuits fund the whole legal system, really. And without this thing, what would lawyers do? I mean, not just financially, but what would they do with their time if there weren't lawsuits like this? You know?
My question is, from your point of view, William, does Apple have any real responsibility to customers to release announced features? Are they held to some sort of legal requirement, or is it just more of a moral standpoint?
I don't know the law enough in the States to say.
Just in general, just from your opinion.
Problem with all of this was, at the time they released that ad, not only was it not available and not coming soon and didn't come, but it appears that they knew it wasn't coming. At one point, it looked like it didn't exist at all. We've since learned that it's like 60% efficient, and that was terribly reassuring. But for a brief bit there, it was like, you're just making this stuff up, really. And that, I thought, was quite a sea change for Apple.
according to the internal meeting, it is as much as 80% accurate, but that is still not good enough when dealing with such incredibly important information. And if 20% of the time you're picking your mom up at the wrong time at the wrong airport, not great. You don't want that to happen 1 out of 5 times. So that's okay when adding bananas to the grocery list and it accidentally adds a lawn chair. That's fine because you'll be like, why is there a lawn chair in here? I wanted bananas. But showing up at the airport 6 hours early or 6 hours late, not so correctable. And then feeling like you need to go and just figure it out yourself defeats the whole purpose of the feature. So Apple obviously had this working internally. That they otherwise they wouldn't have asked developers to start implementing this in iOS 18.2. But I think that they didn't have a demoable version last WWDC, and that's where Gruber comes in with his something rotten in Cupertino piece, where he said they didn't even have a demoable version of it. And I agree with that. If they didn't have it demoable, they shouldn't have even said anything and waited at least until they could show it to press, which they still haven't shown a live version of this to press. So for me personally, from a moral standpoint, yes, Apple should release everything they announce. This happened with AirPower, stuff like that. Like Apple very rarely announces something and doesn't make it, and they're usually very straightforward and honest. They're like, sorry, we just can't do it, and they walk away. I'm glad they were public about this delay because they needed to be. Legally, it's a bunch of hogwash. People can get mad all they want. They can bring up lawsuits all they want, but you'd be suing every company on earth 24 hours a day, 7 days a week if what you wanted, if there was some actual legal obligation. False advertising is a thing, don't get me wrong, but there's a certain line that you have to get to for false advertising. Like that's literally walking out and saying Apple said that my iPhone 16 Pro Max would have this feature by now. No, they didn't. They never said that. So you don't have a legal standing. So I think these kinds of lawsuits are funny. I mean, not Google, but OpenAI, Sam Altman, has said multiple times since 2022, we're weeks away from general artificial intelligence. We're months away from sentience. We're years away from mankind ending because of how amazing our technology is. No, just no. So everyone, if you want a lawsuit, sue OpenAI. Just my legal advice here, because there are companies out there promising the world and they're giving you sand, and it's worthless.
I feel this is a point where I should throw in one of those incredibly fast things about other legal advice may be available. Please consult your local.
I mean, Google announces and cancels things on an hourly basis. They have a graveyard of features that just cease to exist. Facebook has destroyed businesses over releasing and then canceling products. And yet we're mad at Apple for announcing one feature that has not shipped. That, yes, we are all excited for. I can't wait for this feature. It's going to be awesome if it works. It's going to be great when it ships. I don't necessarily care that it got delayed. I'm happy, actually, because it means that they're paying attention. It means that they care enough to delay it. These other companies seemingly do not. I don't know if you've kept up with this, William, but there is a new Google, I keep saying Google. There's a new Chat GPT 4.0 11.64 whatever numeral.
I'm waiting
character.
for 0.65 myself, really. No, I didn't know there was a new one.
There's a new one as of yesterday, I believe. If you go on social media, you see dozens and dozens of these side-by-sides. This is my image. This is my image if I provide a photo. And it's like, I'm now a Muppet, and now I'm a Ghibli character, and now I'm a Simpsons character. And it's like, this is how powerful and cool this new GPT function is. They released it without any guardrails. Oops. And people were making copyrighted material. Oops. And they had to walk it back immediately because, you cannot make Ghibli art. Sorry, that's not legal. And this goes back to that amazing Miyazaki quote of AI is just soulless garbage. Something along those lines was his quote. And I agree. I'm glad the tool exists. It's cool that you could make neat photos, but just blatant copyright theft. My gosh, people. And yeah, that's what's happening. And I wonder where the lawsuit is for opening. Oh, never mind. They're not going to sue anyone over that. But we're going to sue Apple because that's what we do.
Well, Apple's got more money, so, you know.
Do they?
That's where you should go.
They definitely have more money.
It's the thing this week, just because you put this AI, it reminds me, there's a tool going around that you can check whether any of your books have been scraped illegally by AI. And I looked it up, and my very first book, thing for the British Film Institute, about a TV show called The Beiderbecke Affair, has been ripped off by AI. And obviously, I'm unhappy about that, but there's a little bit of me that thinks because of AI, people all over will now be able to spell Beiderbecke correctly. You know, so there's a silver lining there somewhere.
Look at the bright side, of course. Yeah, I mean, I don't really have anything against ChatGPT or OpenAI. These are still tools. They're hammers. They're fun. Go make your fancy profile picture. Great. Like, if I wanted one of those fun, I follow so many fun tech people who have, like, artistic renderings of themselves. If I wanted something like that, I would find the person that they paid and pay them and have this really cool, like, stylized drawing of me for my profile picture. I don't really have any interest in that, at least today. But I'm not sure that ChatGPT would produce an image I would be satisfied with, or at the very least, even if it was satisfying, I would just feel kind of dirty. Like, I don't like that this was not... I got this without any effort, and it doesn't feel earned, and it doesn't feel like me, right? It just wouldn't feel... That's where my personal thing would be here. Like, it's fun on your own, share it in a group chat, but, like, to represent myself publicly with this fake piece of art that likely ripped off someone else's art, it just doesn't feel right to me. But that's my own problem. Everyone can handle this their own way. I'm not going to tell you how to feel about AI. These are just my own feelings, of course. And it's here to stay. There's nothing we can do about it. Apple's embracing it. Everyone's embracing it. We're only going to get more in the coming years. I think we have hit sort of a ceiling, but that doesn't mean it's going anywhere. It just means that it's going to start. Now that we've hit the ceiling, imagine a pillar of water rising from a geyser, and it's hit a ceiling. Now it's just spreading out across the surface. That's kind of what's happening now. Is it's just finding new nooks and crannies to seep itself into. We're going to have AI-enabled umbrellas that automatically open when they feel moisture. You know, stuff like that. I don't know. Speaking of smart weird things, Apple Watch. I don't know why this is... Well, so, cameras. I saw this rumor come by, and my first instinct was, the Apple Watch isn't getting a camera. What do you think?
Okay. Right, I thought that was the end of the discussion, because I'm kind of with you, except I remember talking last week about a patent where there was a flippable thing, and part of it was that they could include in camera, and I just thought that will break off and things. Have I missed a new... There can't have been a new Apple Watch camera rumor, can there?
So we have, as of 2 days ago when we read this, there is this Bloomberg report from, there could be a visual intelligence component to Apple Watch. I don't know why. There's no Apple Intelligence on Apple Watch. The S series, right, chip that is in there cannot run Apple Intelligence. There is no way an Apple Watch is going to get 8 gigs of RAM. And so I'm not really sure what component, why this would help with visual intelligence, other than I think this is one of those things where they got a piece of information and they arrived at the wrong conclusion. So I think what's happening here is, so cameras are light sensors that absorb light information and process it into visual information, right? But at the most basic level, a camera is a sensor. There's a lot of kinds of sensors. There's a lot of light capturing sensors. So perhaps the Apple Watch could be getting a new camera-like sensor that can analyze the environment and provide contextual information on the fly to your phone, so that when you pull out your phone and go to visual intelligence, maybe it's more aware of where it is, or I don't know. I can't see it being its own independent system.
I come at it from the other end, not how it would do it, but what you would use it for. And all I can see is you could turn your wrist, look at your watch, and it would go, yeah, that's you. But it already knows, doesn't it? So, oh, no, you could be in a party, you could scratch your nose artfully, and the camera's looking and goes, yes, it's that guy you met 3 months ago in the cafe by the thing that they mentioned in that advert. Yeah. So there's two uses there.
Well, this gets back to cameras and the AirPods. I think they're not cameras, they're sensors, and they're going to help with different things. You can use visual sensors, so almost like LiDAR. You can use visual sensors in a lot of ways, and we have no idea how Apple would be using them. Better motion capture. Maybe instead of having to get up and do jumping jacks to get my stand goal for the hour, because for some reason when I stood up 15 minutes ago, my Apple Watch didn't count it. So now I'm over here wiggling my wrist like a madman so I don't miss my stand goal for the day. Maybe instead of that, it'll be able to just see that you stood up because it has the visual representation of standing up through a LiDAR sensor, right? We'll see. 2027 is when Gurman expects this kind of technology will make it to Apple Watch. I don't think it'll be an actual camera sensor, because why? We're also hearing that Apple has abandoned plastic for the Apple Watch SE or child version or whatever. I think this was clear. Gurman just reiterated it during a Q&A. Someone asked about it. Plastic was kind of an idea, maybe if they were going for a sub $199 watch, but I think maybe Apple's found the Apple Watch SE standard sells well enough on its own. Enough people buy it for their kids that they don't need to go down market.
Right. Apple doesn't do down market, does it, really? So
doesn't need to. Now we're about to get our next Apple Watch SE, and there's going to be multiple generations in the used market. Yeah, we're good. You can go get so the first generation SE is no longer being updated, but like an 8-year-old, I don't think would care. But maybe when the SE3 comes out, right? That's what we're on. When the SE3 comes out, the SE2 will dip down below that 199, 150 standpoint. And the SE2 is probably going to get at least 2 more upgrades, right? And that's kind of where we're landing. I mean, for me personally, if I had a kid today that was school-going age, they would probably have a cellular Apple Watch, and that's what I would buy them, is an SE. So maybe Apple just found that it doesn't need to go any further, and that's fine. And
that makes sense. Yeah.
Two more things. We're at the end of the show here. Quickly, Apple has updated their browser selection screen in the EU to escape some fines. This kind of brought something to mind. I didn't want to talk about that, but what does browser selection actually mean in the context of iPhone and iPad and even macOS, I suppose? Because everything on iPhone is built with WebKit, and that's what the EU is trying to change. They want to make it so you can, Chromium and those other browsers. Yeah. What are the other browsers, though? We have WebKit, Apple, Chrome, Google, and Firefox. Isn't that it?
Well, that's a very American perspective, because the thing Apple introduced for Europe, this thing of offering a list of alternative browsers, and I'd not heard of them before, but I looked into it, and how the list is actually different in the 27 member states of the EU, because there are some that are really popular in certain countries.
Right.
Now, I can't remember them, but they're there.
But those browsers aren't different engines. They're all just Chrome.
Yeah, true.
They're just different browsers running the Chrome engine. So you go from, oh no, there's not enough choice on iOS, they're all running WebKit, to, well, now you have WebKit and Chrome. Is that really they're not really addressing the competitive issue, are they? It's just something that came to mind.
I see your point. I mean, I get blinded by Chrome because I find it such a slow browser on the Mac. I mean, just closing a tab can sometimes take a cup of tea's worth of time. It's small.
Firefox continues to exist in the lineup, but
Firefox is updated so often.
Yeah.
I mean, between the start of this sentence and the last, there have been 2 Firefox updates, and I can't keep up with this. I got bored around Firefox 99, whenever that was.
Now, people can feel free to write in and tell me if I'm wrong, but the way I see it is it's Apple, Google, and Linux is the way these 3 work. Is Firefox is the Linux browser, more or less. But that it's highly customizable. I believe Firefox bought a bunch of random companies to try and make it have a bigger presence. They own that bookmarking company now. I forget its name, or maybe they've shed it already. I don't know. That company's back and forth a lot. But then basically it's just Firefox and then 1,000 Chrome browsers and then WebKit. So I just find it funny that they're saying all this choice, and it's just you get to choose between WebKit and Chrome now. And I guess Apple not being able to compete with its own browser, it's such a complicated discussion. I just found it funny seeing that now they're going to avoid fines because now you can choose between one, instead of getting 1 browser choice, you get 2 browser choices.
100% improvement.
Yeah, right, double.
Okay, right.
So Apple Books, you wrote an explainer. I just wanted to say, great explainer here. Anything you want to detail on that? I love Apple Books. I use it for everything.
I'm still split between Apple Books and Kindle because Kindle has the largest selection. But Apple Books, as I say in the piece, it's really gorgeously well done. I think, and if I have the option, I'll buy the book in Apple Books, even if it's it's $1 or $2 more expensive. Yeah.
I know Apple Books isn't perfect, and it's kind of its own walled garden issue, but I keep seeing these third-party comic book apps, manga readers, just close down and people lose everything forever, and that is tragic to me.
Yeah.
Whereas Kindle is Kindle, and I just don't want to give Amazon any more money. So I've landed on Apple Books years ago. I just said, you know what, I'm going to rebuy everything that I already bought in Kindle. I'm going to rebuy it all in Apple Books. It wasn't that much, thankfully, at the time. And I've been slowly expanding my collection since. They get excellent sales. There's sometimes just books that are amazing, legendary books that are like $3. Right. Like Apple Books gets some amazing digital sales. You can upload your own PDFs and files. It's a really well-made app. It's a good reader. It could be a better comic reader, but, I mean, you get the full HD color comics on your iPad and just zoom in or whatever, and that's fine enough. I do wish it was a little more open and it was more portable. This is where I was getting at before. If Apple could release Apple Books on Android, I would experiment with different e-readers like Kobo and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's something I think is in Apple's potential future because we've seen Apple Music and Apple TV come to those platforms. And if we ever get an Apple Books Plus subscription, I don't know what that would look like. Maybe audiobooks, but that would be interesting, and that would need to come to other platforms. So there is a potential for that moving at some point in the future. But I just want to reiterate, I also love Apple Books, and this is a great piece from William. So y'all should go check it out.
Thanks. That's great. Thank you.
All right, so let's wrap it up. No controversy corner this week. There's stuff going on in the world, but nothing that we really need to dig into today. But I do want to read some reviews from the Apple Podcast app. So if you do leave a review, doesn't matter if it's 1 star or 5 stars, we'll give it a shout out here to let you know that we are seeing your reviews. We take them into account. We do listen to you guys, and we do our best to make sure that this show is made for you, the listener, because, of course, you're the ones listening. So I have from Titan73. They said that they're a longtime listener. Now, I have a screenshot of the truncated version, so forgive me if I don't get to the whole review. But Titan says they find the discussion between William and I very engaging and balanced. They like our chemistry that has evolved naturally since Stephen left. And they understand that people don't want to hear about regulation and politics, but they appreciate the effort that we put in there. So thank you for that review, 5 stars. We have another 5-star review from Unravioli. Great name. They say that we're entertaining and informative. They love the interplay between us. William, you bring wry humor that sets me up as a comedic foil who keeps things on track.
Okay. I'm going to take that as a very good thing, although my mind immediately goes to, okay, but well, thank you. Yes, rye is a good word. I like the word rye. Yeah.
Yeah, very British. So I appreciate each of their unique perspectives and the range of topics. Keep it up. Thanks for that 5-star review. And we've got a couple of less nicer reviews. So again, I'll reiterate, politics and regulation, they exist. Apple exists in the world where they also exist. And sadly, they are topics of the moment. We're not going to be able to avoid it. No matter how much you ask, we are not going to stop talking about it. But I have tried by packaging it into a specific chapter that you are more than welcome to skip, but these people obviously did not skip it and were unhappy anyway, and were unhappy enough to tell us. So Tisweed gave us a 3-star review. They say they're a long-time listener all the way back to when the show first started. They stopped listening because they can't take it anymore. When I discussed WWDC last week and worrying about travel to the United States, which, to be fair, in the last week, it's only gotten worse. So they said that enough already of Wes's left-leaning propaganda, politics. Again, this cuts off, so I didn't get the whole thing. But they're very unhappy that I mentioned that. Like I said, we're going to keep talking about it. So feel free to skip that chapter if it makes your skin crawl. I get it. Not everyone wants to hear about politics, whether it's because you don't agree with me, or maybe you're just tired of hearing about it and this is not the podcast you want to hear it in. Please, we will always put that content in the controversy corner segment. If you see it, skip it. And then we have Bill Schmidt, unsubscribe, 1 star. Delusional left-wing politics. That's all you need to know about that review. Sure, again, just you don't have to unsubscribe. If you already have, you're not hearing me. So there you go. But if you guys are still here, that means you probably like us. And if politics makes you itchy, look out for that chapter, and we will avoid the topics outside of it. So thanks again for the reviews. We're going to continue delivering the news as needed. So don't worry, guys. Some of these reviews may be a little bit mean, but it's not going to deter us in our commitment in making sure we cover Apple and everything in the world of Apple, including the not so great stuff. William, where can people find you on the internet?
Hiding a lot of the time, avoiding all of this stuff. I mean, but it happens, so you can't ignore it. I'm probably best found on William at AppleInsider.com. Although, actually, I've mentioned this before on 58 Keys YouTube channel, very specifically for writers, but that seems to be, there's a nice community building around that. So I spend a lot of time there just having a gas with people. What about yourself?
Well, I am on Blue Sky, active there. Mastodon, it kind of exists for me. I try to post there when necessary, reply to people there if they ever talk to me there. Blue Sky's fun. Darth is back, posting all the lovely pets. It's always fun when Darth comes out of hibernation, if you guys know who Darth is. If you don't, go to Blue Sky and follow Darth. Excellent follow on Blue Sky. Okay. I'm also still playing around with my bloggy thing that I still am not sure what to do with. So I've started a weekly segment where I just kind of recap news from my own 2 cents on the matter, covering what we've talked about at Apple Insider. So if you guys like those, comment on the links I post on Blue Sky or Mastodon. That's my comment system. I do not have open comments on the articles. If you ever want to see me write about something specific on the blog, feel free to pitch me. I keep trying to write about things and then Mike steals it from me. So I've had that happen a couple of times where I'm like, oh, this is going to be a great topic. And Mike's like, yeah, we want that for Apple Insider. I'm like, okay, fine.
He hasn't once said that to me about my self-destruct blog, just because there's nothing to do with Apple and it's all writing stuff again. But, obviously I'm just not special enough. That's what I'm getting from this. Fine.
I just need to start writing about like video games or something, because I do like video games. Like that's my whole other side of my life is like video games and other tech. So maybe I just need to diversify. Anyway, I want to thank our sponsors, Fast Growing Trees and Rogue Amoeba. I want to thank you listeners again for joining us for the show. If you are a paid subscriber, you didn't hear anything about sponsors. You heard about Apple Insider Plus, which we're about to get into. We're going to be talking about our WWDC wish list. Everything from what might be realistic to completely wacky nonsense. Hopefully you'll stick around for that in a few moments. we'll be back again next week with another episode. Thanks again.